And after a completely calm last 20 minutes of that one, Ipswich launched their 23-24 championship season with a win at Sunderland. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Oh, Jesus Christ, guys. I love Freddie Ladapo, but I think you do not want to hear what I yelled at my TV when he didn't cross that to top. But we're going to be ever so positive.
Hope Enid wasn't within earshot, Ben.
Do you know, she was being walked back through the garden, ready to go to bed. Joe, how are you feeling after that? Jesus Christ.
Good. Brilliant win, isn't it? First and foremost, I know it was a nervy end to it, but it's always going to be at this level now. We're gone are the days where we're just going to be rolling teams over 3-4-0 every week. This is what games going to be like. We're going to retreat. We're going to concede chances. You've got better teams with better quality going up against you, but no, fantastic win.
Dave, your kind of emotional thoughts before we get into
I totally agree with Joe. You know, we weathered the storm, didn't we? Let's face it, first 20 and you know, Goodman probably the only thing he said right that all night that probably we weren't used to that. Let's face it, they bossed the first 20 minutes. We couldn't get a foothold in the game. We just couldn't put our foot on the ball. But once they kind of blew themselves out and we got the goal, it all seemed pretty plain sailing. Really. But it's Ipswich, we can't we can't do things easy. And to be fair, in the last 13 minutes, we'll get onto that, no doubt. For the last, when did they score? 85? I don't know. It really looked like they had, and even before that, it looked like we had 10, and they had a full quote.
they had 14 of that.
To be fair, I will get into this. I thought their substitutions certainly had an effect.
Well, let's get into all this. Let's just first say we are live right now. Obviously, if you're listening after the fact, you can join us live on YouTube each and every Sunday. Bit of a special one today because we're not going to be on Sky at 5 p.m, probably a game for the entire season. But we thought we'd go straight after the game. But do come and join us live. And what that means you can do is get involved down in the comments. Get as many of your comments, get your opinions in. I'll try and put bits and bobs in, but we will specifically go to your questions later on in the pod. We love to hear from you live during the show, and we would love you to hit the like button whilst you are here.
Should we just mention at this juncture is episode 700?
Well, look, Richard's done a grand job. If you look above me on YouTube, yes, we should celebrate. Dave, I've completely lost my head for the last 15 minutes. So, yes, I had totally forgotten that it is.
Not that needs pointing out in Richard's banner, but even so, yeah. Well done, mate. It is
episode 700. So if you've got any good pod memories from the previous 699 shows, but it's ridiculous, isn't it? We'll stick them in. Look, I know everyone's going to want to get onto the second half, but we will start. If I press the correct button, there we go. I still have to do it that way on the nice new layout with the teams. Joe, as you'd sort of imagined, I'll read the team. You give me your kind of thoughts, or if you can get to your thoughts pre-game. So Hladky in goal. We will discuss him at length. Danasian right back. Wolfenden, Burgess, Davis left back. Morsey, Luongo. We were wrong about Taylor possibly starting. I think we're fairly split down. So the pod was both right and wrong. We'll say we were right. Burns, Chaplin, Broadhead. Thank God he started, and George Hurst. Your thoughts then, Joe, on Kieran McKenna's solutions for the absences?
Yeah, it's just the team that rolled through the end of the season last year, isn't it? The team you associate with the promotion bar, sort of Harry Clark and Christian Walton, who were both unavailable for different reasons. And I guess the big call was Luongo or Jack Taylor. And I think maybe Jack Taylor may be a little bit disappointed that he hasn't been able to grab the shirt in pre-season, because I assume he's been signed to start effectively, and he hasn't started. So, but Luongo was superb today. I think you needed him in there. You needed that championship experience, which he has got, and he was probably him and Leif Davis. I thought they were our best players, to be fair.
What was your take? And can you pick up, Dave, on Joe's point? Why Luongo instead of Taylor? Do you think?
I think again, sort of the whole momentum thing from last season. Really, him and Morsey were absolutely fantastic for that last spell of games, weren't they? And like Joe said, a good several eyebrows were raised. Taylor paid good money for him.
How many eyebrows have you got?
Sorry,
how many eyebrows have you got to raise several?
Well, not just me.
Cumulative brows.
Collective raising of eyebrows. And like Joe said, I thought Luongo was fantastic. Absolutely superb. I thought actually was probably our best player. Great for his age, kept going right through the full. I was going to say 90. What the hell am I talking about? Whatever it was, 103. Sorry. I thought he had an absolutely brilliant game and justified, just more than justified his selection, I'd say.
Sunderland, Dave, we'll stick with you. So the highly rated Patterson in goal, Sirkin and Hume. More from him later. The fullbacks still having to play Luke O'Neill centre back with Dan Ballard. Transfer rumours about Danny Bart, who we expected.
That Ballard's a unit, isn't he? Jesus, man, he's huge.
He was having fun with Freddie at the end. Speaking of huge, Ekwa and Neil in central midfield, Clark, Bellingham, Roberts, and as Rich sort of guessed, it says Semedo on the screen, we'll call him Hamir. Your thoughts on a championship playoff semi-final achieving team, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, for the first 20 minutes, clearly their wide men were, as we said on the pod, as you guys said on the pod, the wide men were the big threat, really. Bellingham with some quite nice touches there. Looks a player. I've always quite liked Luke O'Neill. He's sort of solid, adaptable player, isn't he? I think he's filled in quite well. I think he's filled in pretty well at centre half there. But I thought the striker Hamir up front was a bit non-existent, really, wasn't it? Didn't have the greatest games. However, again, Luongo, I'd say not far. I've got to say, Joe maybe agree, not far perhaps behind Luongo and Davis. I thought Burgess was good today. Yeah, really strong.
Let's get into this first half, Joe. And I've been saying for a while, it's never us. It's never us. And then I've also been saying everything has gone right since February the 15th, hasn't it? That first half, if we're completely honest, to go in 1-0 up at half time was falling in the proverbial barrel of whatever and coming out smelling of roses, wasn't it? Tell me about the first half, Joe.
I think there's a few mixed metaphors going on in that one.
As I said, my head's completely gone.
But no, we looked very nervy at the start, the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, especially like Hladky's first touch is a pass that he gives away.
His first about 5 touches.
It was like this. Oh my God. Can I look?
Yeah. Both Hladky and Donatian were really struggling on the ball as they pushed down. Even someone like Morsey was getting caught on the ball, and it looks like there's sort of passing lanes opening up, and he just was electing to keep the ball and then getting caught in possession. And it just felt the pace of the game was just a little
nice press from Sunderland, Joe.
Yeah, the press, we struggled with that, and we just weren't quite with the pace of the game. But to be fair, I did think after that sort of first 15, 20 minutes, it was pretty even from that point on, and we were creating more dangerous chances. When you look at the chance Chaplin had, the nice little play between Burns and Hurst, where Hurst sort of fluffed his chance. Obviously, the goal. Burns had a decent, or Davis had the shot from the Burns cross, didn't he, as well? And so we actually started creating something. And I think that's the thing about the press. We were so used to playing against teams that were just bunkering in against us last year.
Fair point.
When we get through this press, we are so dangerous. Our attacking patterns look so good. I know just the movement, and like I said, that Chaplin chance is a perfect example of that, where it's like the ball in, Broadhead takes a touch, the little back heel straight to Chaplin. Once we get going there, we really do move it nicely. We are going to score goals this season, aren't we? There's no doubt of that. And really, the only chance they had, and it was a big chance, was Ekwa long shot, which Hladky probably should. You got to push that wide, can't you? Pushes it straight back to Bellingham, who just rushes the chance. He should score, he doesn't. So we get away with one there, but really that was it in the first half, really, wasn't it?
That was the turning point, really, in the first half, wasn't it? They scored that, they had most of the possession up to then, and they were really on the up then. But yeah, that was a big chance.
And their set pieces were terrible, weren't they? And
they
had a lot of opportunities to put good balls in the box and just didn't take them.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to bring you in, Dave, by saying set pieces are universal, aren't they? It doesn't matter if you're in League Two or the Albanian
I mean,
fifth division.
Just their delivery wasn't great, was it? It was flat, and we always seem, which is great. We always seem to make the first header, be it Wolfenden, be it Burgess. We always just seem to get there. The delivery wasn't great, and even when later on in the game when Pritchard came on, still wasn't really brilliant, were they? Normally you'd associate him with being absolutely on the button, but I thought we just, you got to give credit to the defence. They defended them well, but the delivery certainly weren't great.
Take me to this goal. I know there's never a bad time to score, but 45+2 is a nice time to score, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, does it come from a corner? I can't remember what it actually. No, it's a throw, wasn't it? It was a throw. Burgess, and you see Burgess, obviously a pre-planned. Burgess sort of strides into the box, so you know what's coming. Danassian found him. Great jump, great flick. Good competition for the ball there. It's just great from Broadhead, and I think is it Davis who has? I think it's Davis who has the sort of like cross shot, which is towards goal, and he's
got an assist already, Dave.
It's instinctive, isn't it? He just sorts his feet out and guides it in. Yeah, you could say overall the balance of play, did we deserve it? Probably not, but you're going to take it, aren't you?
Joe, I agree. I think Dave's maybe not quite where I am on that. I was like, oh, hello, I'll take that. I would have taken 0-0 very much at half time.
Oh, no, so would I. But you know what I mean. It's yeah.
And nice to see a non-celebration done properly by just non-celebrating rather than signalling that you're not celebrating, which draws attention to the thing that you're trying not to.
Yeah, it's all very low key, wasn't it? Fair play to him. Give
me your take on the goal, Joe.
Well, it's just, I know we spoke, like McKenna spoke last year about how we worked a lot on set pieces in the previous summer for something we were going to bring in this season. And he said one area they haven't worked on is throw-in. So I wondered.
Love it.
So day one. So last year we worked on set pieces all summer. The ball pulls back, Lee Evans smashes a corner home. This year we throw-ins is something we say we're going to work on. And then day one, ball goes into the box. Burgess comes up. He doesn't normally come up for a throw-in. And then we sort of turn a throw-in into a corner almost.
And don't forget who's not playing, Harry Clark, who can launch.
Yeah, got the long throw there. But I think it's really sharp from Broadhead. I know people say, oh, it just hit him. But he really gets he angles that ball in there. And it's one of those rare ones you could celebrate before the ball was in the goal because you could see it rolling into the other side of the keeper.
Yeah.
I'm going to read that one from Neil down there. Will the club be doing a Town in 5 plus 13? There we go. Keep your comments coming, guys. Right. We'll get as many on the screen as we possibly can. Into the second half, Joe, will stay with you. Much improved, wasn't it?
As soon as the half started, we just were on it, and we were passing the ball, we were keeping hold of the ball, we were moving it up, and we were playing the game more on our terms than we had been in the first half. I think, like I say, post that first 20 minutes, we were sort of back in sort of level pegging, really. But second half, we sort of were really starting to exert some dominance on it. We really needed a goal to show that. Just getting back to first half, how did you see the penalty shout, Joe? Danassian Clark. Seen him given, I'd say, on that one. He sort of got the wrong side of him, didn't he? And where he'd looked to go shoulder to shoulder, he ended up sort of going shoulder to back. So, but I think the fact he went down quite easily probably didn't help his cause. Yeah, when he blew, I thought, oh, here we go. Delighted to see the free kick go our way. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very strange because it was the exact thing. I was at Leicester Coventry earlier. It was the exact thing we saw a team just coming out at half time and looking a different side, which can take us up to. And Joe, I said before this game, I don't care if we don't win as long as George Hurst scores, and we can say, right, he's put that to bed. He never scores at Championship level. Yes, he does, Joe. Yeah, and some goal as well, wasn't it? From Broadhead. It was really this little bit of movement, wasn't there? We were sort of, you could see we were starting to probe on the passing, and there were some nice little balls into the feet of the players, and then it just sort of, one of those goes into Luongo, and he just does a nice turn, gets away from his man. It's pulled, but a good bit of refereeing to let that play on. Gets the ball rolled, and then obviously Broadhead picks the ball up, and it's that on the move, that through ball, picks out the runner. It's a real sort of
pace on that ball he passed there, doesn't he? He doesn't sort of leave it there. It's a real perfect ball. And we mentioned last year his pass that he did to Chaplin for the goal against Peterborough away, the assist for Chaplin again at Barnsley, I think, was it, where he sort of, oh no, sorry, at Charlton home, the little dink ball that he put through there. And no, just really, really good assist. And Hurst sort of, it's a good chance, but he's still got to take it. And he absolutely larrups it, doesn't he? And keeper doesn't stand a chance. And it's just, that is exactly what we wanted.
So lifts it in. I think you're right, Joe. The pace on the ball makes it. If the pace on the ball isn't there, he's probably got to take a touch and cut back on his left foot, probably.
No.
Yes, I said, and just a confident finish. Absolutely buries it, doesn't he? As you know, we saw so many goals like that last season. It was just as you were, really, wasn't it?
And I think he scored in all his pre-season games that he played for us. So it's not. I know pre-season is not massively important, but as a striker, getting goals is always a good thing. And like Ben says, this championship hoodoo, no goals in 40 games in the championship is, well, it's not no goals in 40 games, is it? It's 1 in 1 now. That is the stat.
Been laid to rest, yeah.
That is the real quiz. Now, we think we know about football because we've made 700 podcasts. Explain to me how a team can be in control with 11 players for the next however many minutes. I thought we were really good. Couple of breakaways. We'll talk about what could have been an incredible goal from Connor Chaplin as well. In fact, we'll go to Dave for a left foot shot from 40 yards.
Oh my God!
Hits the bar and a penalty shout straight after.
Stop it! If only it hits the bar and drops in. Oh no! Yeah, I mean the ball just breaks. He's just so alert, isn't he? First time from what? Just in the D, or just perhaps goal side of the D in the centre circle. Absolutely gets it spot on, doesn't he? It's a bit like what he used to do on Soccer AM, wasn't it? You know, the crossbar challenge. Perfect. And it's a penalty, though, isn't it? The aftermath of that, it's a penalty, isn't it? Christ,
yeah,
I mean, obviously.
So the referee, Dave, referees never play advantages for penalties because why would you? He seems to be waiting for the next shot to be taken, and at that point, his head's gone. But yeah, what I will say, and this I'll probably get dog's abuse. When you actually watch the replay, Hurst is actually on his heels, admiring He just
maybe
stops.
he's not.
And if he runs in, he definitely scores.
Yeah, he's not quite set. That's fair point. He's not, but even so, it's an assault by Ballard almost, isn't it? He takes him like thigh, don't he? For Christ's sake, maybe a little look. I know we say it, don't we? Maybe a little bit of evening it out. I know we say that. I'm sure it's not, but yeah, that looked. But to be fair to the ref, I suppose in that one incident, so much was going on, wasn't it? It was all.
Dave, once he leaves it go 2 seconds, refs never pull it back and give a penalty, do they?
Yeah,
so at least the good news is it was a deliberate attempt to play the ball, so it wouldn't have been a red card. It probably would have just been a penalty and a yellow card, wouldn't it? What was your take on that little passage of play?
Well, firstly, the shot from Chaplin is unbelievable. It's just a little sand wedge, little lob wedge, isn't it? Just thinks up there. The keeper, you could see he was panicking as he ran back. His face just drops, wasn't it, when he runs back? But yeah, Hurst, I think maybe Hurst would have been better off trying to sort of control the ball rather than hit it first time, sort of trying to use his body to bring it under control. And I think at that point, it's 100% going to be a penalty if he does that. But because he's sort of trying to shoot, but the ball's sort of sitting there, I don't know sort of what he's trying to do, but it's just a nailed-on penalty. I don't know what. I think the ref was still admiring Connor Chaplin's shot. Forgot that he was supposed to be making a decision on it.
Just so much going on, wasn't there?
Yeah, crazy. We do get a decisive refereeing decision when we should mention Ladapo, Hutchinson, and Harness all come in with the game looking fairly well under control, and then Trey Hume gets red carded, Joe, and I'm sitting there thinking, lovely. That's just what we need now to see this out. And would you agree with me, Joe? It was the last thing we needed in terms of seeing it out. Would have been easy with 11, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was a strange one, wasn't it? It just seemed to really throw us what to do there, and we just ended up retreating. And I say we knew there was going to be a huge amount of time, so the clock lies effectively at the moment. When it's the 80th minute, it's not the 80th minute really. It's like the 70th almost, because you knew what was coming there. And I know it's going to take teams a while to adjust to these new rules. And I don't know, we just got deeper and deeper and sort of stopped conceding chances. And when sort of Hladky clattered Donatian, I just think at that point Donatian's just got to go off at that point. He just looked a bit groggy from that point onwards, and it's him that gets beaten for the goal. Serkis goes past him. I'm not saying Serkis wouldn't have got past him anyway, but when you've just had that big sort of injury, he obviously wasn't knocked cold, so I think you have to go off if you're not cold. But you got Dumble on the bench. I think you just got to make that change straight away, don't you? Just you can't try and run off an injury like that. You're just not quite with it at that point, and it just seemed. And then obviously when the goal goes in, we know what's coming. We know there's going to be a huge amount of stoppage time, and we know we're going to be getting deeper and deeper as we did.
Nice goal, Dave. I agree with Joe. I'm loath to criticise Danassian, but
it was a really well taken goal. To be fair, Serkin kind of he doesn't really beat him as such. It's almost a Davis move, as he gets a ball out of his feet and swings at a ball in a good area, and it's a really good finish by Neil. To be fair, but yeah, they're which, I mean, do you know what the crucial thing with the sending off gets the crowd up, doesn't it? Immediately gets the crowd up, so almost gives them a lift, gets the crowd up, and it should, always, especially at big stadiums like that, inevitably it happens that way. They needed something to give them a lift, and I couldn't have felt hard done by, because he just got absolutely done by Davis, and as someone said on the Telegram group, absolutely idiotic, wasn't it? But the crowd were roused, and I think, as I said earlier, their subs certainly made a difference, particularly the guy Barr wide left. I thought he was pretty good and effective, and obviously Pritchard buzzes about. But we kind of went into our shells a bit, didn't we?
Well, Dave, let's try and get a handle on this, because this is obviously a psychological thing, isn't it? Because the logic says you're two up and you get an extra man. Yeah, but and I don't want to. You can probably go a bit of both, Dave. Sunderland need credit for just going for it. Frankly, they had nothing to lose. Our game management was absolutely hopeless.
Yeah, not great.
No, we just could not keep the ball, could we at all? But I guess it's just one of those things that gets a life of its own, and one team can't run and the other team are just attacking, right?
Also, do you know what? I think that just shows the character of a team, because I know we've said it before and it's perhaps an old cliche, but Ipswich teams in the past under that bombardment just wouldn't have seen it out, would not have seen that game out. And look, it took, as in the 102nd minute, was it? It took an absolutely worldy save to keep us with the result. But it was a tough watch. Oh dear. Yeah, really tough watch. That last 15 minutes was,
So, Joe, we've had this kind of news from the EFL that we're now going to get specific. Because I always used to sit there in the stand, and people would say, "Oh, it's a minute for a goal and it's a minute for a sub," and I'd be like, "No, it's not. There's nothing actually written into the wording of the laws, but it actually is now." And we've had some big chunks of stoppage time already this weekend. I don't know whether or not 13 is the biggest, but what were your thoughts when that number went up?
Yeah, well, I won't say them on here because we might use our ad revenue. But I think it's right that they're doing something to crack down on time wasting. But the worrying thing for me is it's like 13 minutes. It's a long time, and it didn't feel like there was a lot of stoppages in there. If that makes sense, there was obviously the Danassian stoppage, but that was about 3 minutes, and like the other 10, I know it's right, and I know that these are the rules, but it's like how do you speed up the subs and goals to such an extent that you're not going to end up with 13 minutes if you've had 2 goals and 8 subs in this?
13 minutes almost seems that they're added on a minute per sub.
Well,
almost. You got the goal celebration.
Dave, I'm still not quite at 13, but remember, Flagship did get booked for time wasting.
Do you know what? I tell you what I was waiting for. I was just waiting during that period from a tweet from our old mate Stat to say, and it's probably there already, the latest Ipswich have ever conceded a goal or something like that. I thought it's bound to come,
That's probably Team Close.
It's got arc down. Yeah. It's shades of that, wouldn't it? Yeah. And then obviously people were then saying, "Oh, I remember Brentford first game of the season, Oh no!
Oh God, yeah, that was on the first day. Is that the very first ever pod, Dave? Number one, number 700 today. But look,
I also sorry, going back to the actual the game management. I think the problem is as well that we didn't do the right things when we did have the ball, because obviously Hutchinson breaks free, and rather than pass the ball to Morsey and be the quick guy who can then do that, he keeps the ball, and he ends up with a nothing shot. The Dapo gets away, and ball is in acres of space coming up there. And I don't know if he'd have got the ball across to him, but it's like we had 2 or 3 really good chances to do something to finish the game, and we didn't take them. That's where you got to be better as part of the game management.
I think you can perhaps give Hutchison a bit of a pass, fairly young and inexperienced, but Ladapo, there wasn't a lot of excuse for that, really, was it? He should get that ball out of his feet, and it's Don Ball. It's Ball, I think, isn't it? He's like, there's no one in the penalty area but him. But
Joe, I agree with you, but I would counter by saying the disappointment for me was the ball not sticking in midfield. I remember hearing Mark Kennedy describing last year as a wave game, that you never want to be involved in a wave game where it's just going back and forth and back and forth. And what we needed to do was be up the pitch. And this is I know they absolutely ran their tails off, Morsey and Luongo, etc. That's where they need to, because it wasn't sticking with Harness and it wasn't sticking with Hutchison, as you mentioned as well. And yeah, I agree. Obviously, the criminal bits are when you're 2v2 and bearing down on goal and you have to score. But
it's interesting we don't ever look to make a sort of a change of shape sub on those. Is it like
it looked like he was going to at one point, Joe, and they were tinkering with the three every time. I thought Jackson's going to come in to the right and he's going to drop ball into midfield. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, and I just think maybe do you just need that third body in the midfield sometimes as opposed to a Hutchinson and a, because you sort of got Burns, Hutchinson, and sort of, well, obviously Ladapo up there, but you're not really getting anything out of them, are you all? And it's like, could you have just had him Ball coming on in that position and just dropping into that free? But I don't know, it's difficult. He obviously likes this system shape for it. Yeah.
Well, so Dave, the 13-minute stoppage time, the other thing that was happening, and I should be very positive about this, there was some beautiful head it, kick it, block it, get rid of it, defending. Super. And then talk to me at the end, because I think my narrative on Cladkey changed in the 102nd minute, and maybe you make a save like that, and you
can see it coming. Even those balls when they were getting the ball so on an angle, even those chip balls in the box weren't brilliant, but that was the one they finally got right, wasn't it? And is it? I think Neil. I think it's Neil again, isn't it? Or is it Ballard? No.
Who takes the shot?
Yeah,
it's the goal scorer.
It's Neil, isn't it? It's Neil. Does everything right, doesn't he? Everything right. Gets over it, volleys it, near post, and it's a good save in it. Part of the post involved there, but he gets a foot to it. He gets something on it, doesn't it? I thought, oh my god. And that was a big save. And look, can only give him so much confidence, and I think you could see the players going to him afterwards, because as Joe quite rightly said, he had a very, very shaky beginning of that game, but he certainly ended it brilliantly, and made another good save after that. Actually did push one away wide, didn't he? So it was not say we got away with, and of course we didn't get away with one, but it was shades of, dare I say it, we saw one or two games in the McCarthy. Don't say I'm comparing this team to that, but the sitting back trying to protect the 1-0 lead, and you're no. But like I said, I think ironically for them, probably the bloody sending off was the worst thing that could have happened, probably for us.
So Joe, we'll talk about signposts later in the season and stuff that turns out to be important, and we're going to have learned so many lessons from this game. But given Cladkey may play, you tell me, 10, 15 games in a row, how important is that save at the end? Given, let's be quite plain about this, it was a proper shaky start, like Dave said as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's only going to grow in confidence from that point, because obviously if that shot goes in, it becomes a game where he's effectively made one save, which he pushes back someone, gives him an open goal and lets in 2 goals. And that's basically his day, isn't it? But it turns into a day where he has made 3 or 4 saves, letting a goal that he could do nothing about, and made an absolute stunning save in the very sort of dying embers of the game, gets up quickly and makes another save sort of shortly after it. And you just end up saying, well, yeah, he can come away with confidence. He knows deep down in his head tonight, he has saved us 2 points there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So, and that can only give you confidence. He has been the difference between us winning and drawing that game.
And the team as well, because I think his nervous start just seemed to transmit right through the team, didn't it? It just did. It just
and the bloody stadium, Dave.
Well, and everywhere. It just did, didn't it? And the home support every time he then from then on for the first 20-25 minutes got the ball at his feet, it was that sort of thing. So that certainly got to the team as well. But as Joe quite rightly said, he'll feel 10 foot tall after that.
And there was nothing, and there weren't any other sort of footwork issues after the sort of 2 or 3 at the start, was it? Obviously, that's 2 or 3 too many. But in the second half, his footwork was much better and he's much more comfortable. But I do think if you have like Harry Clark, for example, at right back, it's a little bit easier to pick a pass to him because he's ready to receive one and he's not going to give you them back to you as many times.
Sorry to interrupt, Joe. It's when it's got in a player's head when there's a couple of times in the first half when he's on the ball and he's trying to prove to the universe that he's okay with his feet, and you're like, that's not normally what you would do there. You're having extra touches. It's the lady doth protest too much, isn't it? And you're kind of like, come on, this needs to not be a thing, and especially given their pressure. Right, we got to get through this. Let me just throw the numbers up, and then I will get both of your takeaways. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see, for God's sake, if the idiot presenter presses the correct button, you'll see a rather red-looking attack momentum graph there up on FootMob. Let me give you some actual numbers, though. And given that onslaught at the end, 66-34 in Sunderland's favour on the possession, 1.88 to 1.17 in Sunderland's favour on the XG, 20 shots to 13 in Sunderland's favour. Again, that's padded by the last 13 minutes. We didn't score most of those chances, but the numbers are the numbers. Read them how you see fit. 2 big chances to Sunderland, 1 big chance for Town. What, Joe, and then we'll come to you, Dave. What are your kind of, I know you've only just finished watching the game, what are your kind of big takeaways from this brilliant start?
Big takeaway is, I sort of mentioned it earlier, but just the way that we have that extra space in transition and what we're going to be able to do with that space that we have. And there are going to be some hairy moments at the back because you're going up against championship pressers rather than League One pressers. And there's some good teams there. And like I say, we've gone there. We've had a long game, 105 minute game there. And we've gone there, got the win. And first game of the season, like ultimately, these players aren't going to be fit for 105 minutes at the moment. So I'd imagine there's a little bit of energy sort of coming out of the legs, sort of that sort of nervous energy, a big stadium, big crowd there, and you're there and it's your first game back. You are going to be lagging a bit after sort of 75, 80 minutes, and we were, and we sort of, because of sort of Donashian's injury, we didn't really have the subs to change it at that point. Someone like Burns was so important because he can win headers in sort of back in our goal, and you lose a bit of energy. Morsey and Luongo were playing well, but so you couldn't really take one of those off. But we were just losing a little bit of energy at the end. But this team is only going to get fitter. We saw it last season how fit they were by the end of the season. But no, it's the best possible start you could have, isn't it? Going away to a team, I don't remember. This is a team that finished in top 6 last year. This isn't easy game. It's probably one of the hardest games on paper we could have this season, and we've gone there.
Finished 19 places above us, Joe.
Yeah, and we've gone there and got 3 points, and I don't think many will walk away saying we've gone there and absolutely done a mugging on them. I think we were probably good value for the win as well.
Dave, your takeaways?
Yeah, I agree. It was quite a strange stat, wasn't it? I saw that. I think it flashed up on Sky that they only won 7 home games last year.
Yes.
Just blimey, it's incredible. Well, what a great way for
Dave,
obviously.
If I can just quickly come in there. Obviously, they were good away, and it was a low tide to get into the playoffs. That number was, I think it was 70 in the end, or Joe, I don't know if you remember, 69 around there. Sorry,
69,
Dave.
yeah. 69.
No,
69. There you go, below 70, Dave. To get
it was, so important to get the win. 3 points, first game out, absolutely brilliant. You don't want to be, all right, Stoke at home, kind of fanciest perhaps for that. I mean, I think we looked at these first 2 games and the pre-season fixtures and thought, well, you've got Leeds coming up at home, etc. So if we can get 4 points perhaps in those first 2 games and you're up and running sort of thing, almost the other way round, point at Sunderland, maybe beat Stoke at home,
Especially given, Dave, what we're about to discuss with how Stoke got on yesterday as well.
Yeah, I think my take on it for that first 20 minutes was just how quick and pacey they moved the ball. As Joe said, the press was sharp, wasn't it? Physicality, they looked strong, and real the physicality looked much looked much at a higher level as well. But once we saw it out, let's face it, and again at the start, you'd take a point, but Neil scores with that last gasp effort, and it feels like a defeat, doesn't it? And you're really flat all right, you're pleased you got a point, but God, you're flat. Charlton away last season, etc. So absolutely brilliant start. 3 points, off we go. Seemingly Clark is, I think, back in training, is he? So likely to be potentially available next week. Super. Yeah. Take it.
Okay.
And also, a comment from Rich on there, which is important. It's only the second time we've ever won at the stadium, and it's a ground we've got a terrible record at. We'd won 1, drawn 1, and lost 10. Only won once in Sunderland since 1989.
We won in their relegation season, didn't we?
Yeah.
Guys, we are going to have a look at the rest of the action over the weekend. We were the last ones to play in the Championship. We are going to take your questions in a little bit after that. But first, we are going to say a giant thank you to Innovation Labs and hear this message from them.
Innovation Labs is business hub and co-working space with strategic locations across Suffolk. Our aim is to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, business growth, and the development of an AI centre of excellence in Suffolk. Monthly hot desks are available from just £79. For more info, head to innovationlabsgroup.com or contact info@innovationlabsgroup.com. Innovation Labs, providing support for businesses across Suffolk. Locations in Stowmarket, Ipswich, Sudbury, Woodbridge, with more to follow.
Okay, so round 1 of the Championship is over. I'll just bash through these scores, say a bit about the ones I deem relevant. And if you want to dive in on maybe a game each that maybe pricked your attention, guys, come in after me. Get your comments in as ever on anything you've seen over this weekend. So Friday night, Sheffield Wednesday 1, Southampton 2, relegated team, getting the job done in the end. Blackburn 2, West Brom 1 into Saturday. Bristol City 1, Preston 1. Big win for Millwall. Impressive one that. Middlesbrough 0, Millwall 1. Norwich in the 96th minute, winning 2-1 against Hull. And well done, Plymouth. We did predict it on the show that the fair wind is still blowing behind the Argyle there. 3-1, they beat Neil Warnock's Huddersfield. Our next opponents and all of their new players, Stoke, won 4-1 against Rotherham. It was Swansea 1, Birmingham 1 in Mike Duff's first game. At half-time, this was 4-0 and ended 4-0. Watford 4, QPR 0. You can tell us in the comments whether that's good news or bad news for 3 weeks' time, depending on whether they get their act together between now and then. Leicester 2, Coventry 1. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall 2, Coventry 1, basically. Leeds 2, Cardiff 2. Leeds, huge late equaliser there. Joe, what pricked your attention out of that lot?
The sort of 2 games I watched, Sheffield Wednesday v Southampton. I thought Sheffield Wednesday were poor, really. I thought Southampton were okay, did well enough, but I just find sort of Russell Martin incredibly dull to watch, the passing around at the back. But they got a win, but they didn't look too sharp. But they've got quality in the tide. And again, I watched Leicester Coventry earlier today, and I thought Leicester looked like they're there to be got at a bit as well. They were so open on the break, weren't they? And really strange, sort of really narrow formation and
3-2-5 when they've got the ball.
Yeah, but a lot of really, I don't know. It seemed a lot of round pegs in square holes there. So I think they're going to need to do some recruitment. So I think they might be the slow starters in the league. And I guess it's just whether this works, whether they hold their nerve and stuff. But I know they got the win, but they weren't all that for me.
That's very interesting, Joe, because you and I discussed before, we had it the other way around, didn't we? We thought Southampton would probably be the slow starters, but I don't disagree with what you've said. Anything stand out for you there, Dave?
Yeah, a few things. I mean, the Southampton game, you've got to think, looking at their lineup, there could well be some big personnel changes before the end of the
Walker-Peters and his dressing gown and cigar.
Kind of think so. In fact, I was down on the South Coast last week and met a Saints fan, and he didn't think Ward-Prowse would even start on Friday. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I've got to have a shout for Plymouth actually, because in my 1 to 24 on the Gab, Rich put mine out on the Gab Sutton. I think I put Plymouth at 23rd and got called a dick on the YouTube comments, which is totally fair enough. In my defence, that was about 2 or 3 weeks ago before they signed Morgan Whittaker and Marley Bumba. But Marley Bumba, even better, and Barley Mumba. So in my defence, I think
Marley Bumba, that's tremendous.
I think Marley Bumba could be quite useful. So in my defence, that's my point there. But no, Millwall. What took my eye to like teenage subs? The winger created it. What a finish! What a finish!
Dave,
Yeah.
I can direct you to a lovely
You're
video
big
on
on
the
Millwall, aren't
Benjamin
you?
Bloom football channel. 10
Yeah, you're big on
youngsters
Millwall.
to watch out for. Romain Esse, the goal scorer, was one of them, as was Archie Gray, who started for Leeds today.
Oh, what a dynasty! What a dynasty, Archie Gray. So his dad was Andy Gray. And he's hang on, yeah, his dad's Andy
some
Gray.
kind of nephew, like a great nephew of Eddie Gray, yeah.
Eddie Gray, yeah. Well, his granddad's Frankie Gray, Leeds Forest player. Yeah, bloody hell, I didn't realise that. But no, other than that, I mean, QPR. I did think QPR 4-0 down at half time. I did have a quick check that Andre Dazelle started, and he actually played pretty much the full game. I couldn't believe he was the sort of guy 4-0 down at half time. Gareth Ainsworth team that you think, oh, he's got to be hooked at half time, but in fact he was almost onto the bitter end. But yeah, that's not a good start for them. But you're also quite big on Watford, aren't you, this season?
Only for a bit of a gamble. Not honestly, not massively. No, that was just me having a bit of fun, to be honest. But
Norwich are known for scoring goals in the 90s.
Last season, yeah.
Previous championship seasons, maybe not last season, though.
Yeah, quite well. Last season we were them together. Sorry, go on, Joe. I'll just leave that league table up there, shall I?
I think judging from the atmosphere at Carrow Road, there's not going to be a lot of patience in their fan base for David Wagner. I know even if they win, it sort of reminded me of when sort of Mick was here at the end, and even when we were winning games, as soon as we'd lose one, it's just straight onto him and losing in game. He's not going to last season, is he? I always think when you're managers like that, there's no point in continuing with them, is it? And I don't know, they just seem to be. They're going to have to go really, really well just to not have a managerial change this season.
What's your take on Farker at Leeds, Ben?
I would suspect he'll be in the top 4, won't he? With that sort of squad of players. Again, we just got this bizarre August where you still think Kyle Walker-Peters and Livramento and Ward-Prowse and whoever are going to go from Leeds. Tyler Adams might be sold. There'll be bids for Sinisterra and Nonto, and at Leicester as well. They'll probably, and it's just a bit odd. That's not all going to. That's especially after today. Yeah, that's not all going to settle. But would you like to see a round 1 league table we are in 4th position in the championship, ladies and gentlemen. I will
still can't get ahead of Plymouth.
Yeah,
bang Plymouth, bang.
Well played, Plymouth. Yeah,
Ben, that's a point. What's going on with the show this year? The ITV show. Is that going to be the format as it was last night?
I'm going to talk to you about that, Dave, when we've
off air, aren't you? You're going off air
recording. That. But I did see Dean Ashton at Leicester today. Coincidence, walking out the ground. Yeah, so yeah. I can tell you his views on it, and I'll keep them private as well. Right, shall we get into the questions, guys? Anything you want us to discuss? And you guys are so well trained, aren't you? If you can help me out in the comments, just stick a Q before your question and maybe a question mark afterwards. Then it helps me because the chat moves quite quickly. Can I just really quickly ask? There's a couple I had of my own. Joe, first time, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I've seen Kieran McKenna lose it on the touchline in such a way when that penalty didn't get given. Has there been it's odd for him, and we have the analogy of you're safe on an aeroplane while the air stewards are calm. It's when the air stewards start thrashing about, you want to worry. And I have that with Kieran McKenna. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I guess he could just see that's the game sewn up if you get that penalty to score it, isn't it? And you're sewing the game up at that point, and it's so obvious, isn't it, that he just gets totally wiped out.
He's just not been that emotional type of manager because I would imagine he thinks that would affect the team if they see him losing the plot and they might get a bit riled up. It's like that, does he?
I don't think that's he's been booked before as a manager, I don't think, has he? So that was his first yellow.
Yeah, true.
But no, he normally has his little iPad, and normally when a big incident happens, he goes and looks at the iPad and knows he's right. And then
it's nothing on the iPad; it just says "calm down." That's what it says.
then mentions it in the sort of post-match press conference.
A couple of managers sent off over the weekend. Corberan was sent, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
Someone else as well.
Yeah.
Was there?
I mean, look, we've been on the pod. We've certainly, members of the team have certainly complained about time wasting a lot. And I think it's great if you can stop players kicking the ball away. I mean, we have these ridiculous things in football. Don't start me on, quote, shepherding the ball out, which is literally a foul if you're not within playing distance of the ball, and it's just not a foul. And standing on the ball on a free kick as well. It's literally obstruction and a yellow card, but you can just go and stand on the ball and stop people taking it. So I'm kind of my pedantic law follower. I'm sure someone will ask about Mark Ashton's comments about transfer rumours. Word it in there because I want to get the guys' take on that. Right, guys, can we get reasonably quick answers? Don't give us chapter and verse, and then we can do as many questions as possible. Joe, who's coming? Who's leaving from Charlie?
Well, interesting that Edwards wasn't in the 20 today. Where you think, is that one that he's going to be potentially one that makes way? Because it did always seem that Edwards or Jackson is probably the one, or Evans potentially, that makes way for us to be able to bring someone else in with regards to the squad limit. So I'd say that, yeah, he's probably the most at risk because Hutchinson came on and played that role that he played.
Do you think maybe an injury there, Joe, though? Because he's had a decent, by all accounts, he's had a really decent pre-season, hasn't he?
I'd heard he travelled. I just think he doesn't offer anything different to Hutchinson, really, does he? And you've got Jackson, who offers the sort of Burns replacement.
I really like Edwards, but yeah, you might be right. You might be
Dave, are the confidence boosts for Hladky and Hurst the kind of things you look back on in a few months' time as important?
I think we've covered that very, very much so. Yeah, your striker gets off the mark game one, massive tick. And yeah, after a shaky start, ultimately your goalkeeper's arguably
Dave,
a match winner.
Sorry to interrupt, Dave. Play the reverse scenario. Hurst starts on a scoreless streak, and Hladky lets 2 goals go. So it's almost the opposite not happening huge. As input. If I'm not stating the bleeding obvious,
absolutely huge. And at that venue as well, whatever, I don't know, didn't see the crowd, but I guess approaching 40,000, whatever, at that venue as well. So important, especially a striker. So important for the strike. Your central striker to get off the mark. And yeah, as Joe said, what a brilliantly taken goal.
Dave, I'll stay with you so Joe doesn't get 2 similar questions in a row. Any change in recruitment priorities for you chaps after that from Rich?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because, I mean, people have been crying out. Well, certainly people have been crying out for another striker. So I guess that would still perhaps be on the cards because at the moment, centrally, you've only really got Hurst and Ladapo. I mean, I think Rich perhaps mentions Burgess there. I thought he was absolutely superb today and absolutely grew into the game. His distribution was pretty good. Again, he just wins. He's so strong physically, in the air.
Well, that's just numbers of centre back, though, Dave. There's one required, isn't there? Surely, still.
Yeah, no, absolutely is. Yeah. But absolutely is. So, I wouldn't say no after today. No, I wouldn't think there was a change in recruitment philosophy. I'd still say yes, another centre back, preferably left-sided centre back, and another front man. And perhaps there is room for another squad player or 2 also.
Joe, Dad and Son Gaming World, what happened in the first 15 minutes we were so off the pace? What do you think the cause of that was?
It just seemed like the intensity was a little bit much for us at times, and when you make one error, it just sort of compounds it, and we just hadn't quite got to grips with the press, and I think that went from the back of the team to the front of the team. Every player was sort of holding on to the ball that sort of half second too long, making bad passes, making bad decisions, and it just needed to settle down. But it was just, I know you're going to have moments in games when you're like that, but we just need to make sure you sort of come through them and keep doing what you want to do.
Thomas, I think we've done Hladky, so thank you for your question, and we'll skip on to the next one. Dave, anyone else feel a bit bad for, it's from Colin, a bit bad for Mogga given how much we love him as a club? Shame to see him lose his cool a bit.
Oh, it's just frustration.
It's the deal, isn't it?
Yeah, frustration. I think the sending off was probably the final nail that sort of tipped him over the edge, really, because it, as we said in the Telegram group, it was idiotic. So no, not really. Just showing his frustrating afternoon for him, wasn't it? Especially, after the start they had, and with the Bellingham miss, one thing and the other, it'd have been as we said, extremely disappointed to come in at half time, certainly 1-0 down, and then we get control of the game 2-0 up, and he's just losing it, isn't he? So I ain't got no issue with that really, and he's just a great guy, Mogger, isn't he?
Indeed. Joe, Isaac Fitton, of the newly promoted teams, who has the best quality? Now, it depends if you have factored Plymouth's home stadium into that, because they're the best team in the world, let alone out of 3 at home. But what's your take, Joe?
I'd say us by a long way, to be fair. Sheffield Wednesday look really far off it still, and I know they've had a sort of tough summer with regards to managerial changes and recruitment, and I think they're going to be a different side. But like I say, I like Plymouth, but really, if they finish 15th, they're going to think they've had a fantastic season, where if we finish 15th, we'd have had a disappointing season.
You can't factor in the goal from Marley Bumba, though. It was John Barnes-esque yesterday, wasn't it? It was John Barnes against Britain.
It was a hell of a goal.
It was John Barnes in the Maracana, like 1980, whenever it was, 4. Yeah.
Maracana.
Maracana.
Marcus
Maracana.
Patrick Nash Lee, the quadruply named. Evening, chaps. Great to see a ref not giving any contact-free kicks. But how did you think our intensity was in getting back into defensive positions? You can split that pre and post red card if you want, Dave.
Yeah. No, I mean we just sat back, didn't we? After the red card, we sat back and pretty much invited them on. But no, I thought up till then we were really well organised and in pretty much control of the game. I think they were saying on the comms that Sunderland were just completely running out of ideas. A big shout for Roberts. God, crikey! Some of the times a good old fashioned. Love to see that good old fashioned dribbler, isn't he? And he had one or two brilliant passages of play from him. But
he's not an old-fashioned dribbler, Dave. He comes inside the whole time. You're
old-fashioned dribbler.
Just go down the line. Get down the line.
No, he did that. He did more than once. No, he did more than once. To be fair, no, I as a game, certainly as a game wore on, actually. But no, I thought our intensity remained the same. But yeah, after the sending off, we just sat back, didn't we? Invited it on.
So I'm trying to find more questions. Joe, that's a great question. Rob Raspberry. What was the biggest lesson the team learned today?
I guess it's just the pace, isn't it? The pace of these games are going to be played at, and you need to be on it from minute one in these games, don't you? And we weren't today, and it didn't hurt us, but it's just that extra bit of pace. Until you're actually in the league, you don't know it, do you?
And Dave, what about the actual affirmation of going straight into this new league with, let's be honest, loads of hype, some ridiculous hype as well, some sensible hype, and winning away in adversity at a playoff semi-finalist? The confidence and the affirmation of stepping up the level is amazing.
You can't put a price on that. Absolutely superb, isn't it? Confidence will be up, and yeah, ultimately, with more than perhaps a little slice of luck at the end, we saw, we did see the game out. It's going to give you massive confidence, huge.
Wonderful. I think we're all there for the questions. Right on cue, we're going to say thank you to our good friend David for €3 on a super sticker there. You can contribute via Super Chat. We'll talk a little bit about the next couple of weeks, not in any massive detail, because we'll obviously do that on the pre-season show. Just quick plug, if you'll indulge, just 20% off in the merch store for the next 2 days. It tells me here, Dave and Rich on the Naked Football Show on Wednesday. Unbelievable scenes.
I think we are.
Prematch is going to be live on Thursday ahead of the Stoke game. That will be at 8 p.m. And the Flagship will be back to its normal time of 8 p.m. live next weekend. Do get involved in our Telegram group as well. Match day chat is a lot of fun. Even just for that, come and have yourself a 2-week trial. Joe, so Bristol Rovers now coming up. We can talk in a fair bit of detail about that, and then Stoke at the weekend. The team will get back to Suffolk, probably warm down and whatnot tomorrow. What does the rest of the week look like, and what does it need to look like?
I guess Tuesday, you sort of is probably going to be your only real training session of the week, really, isn't it? When you look at the match one, sort of when you can actually go at something a bit more. But I think you're probably going to be making the 9, 10, 11 changes for the game against Bristol Rovers, aren't you? So you probably want to keep the first team group.
Would you keep the goalkeeper in for a bit of rhythm?
I would personally, because I don't think Slicker is probably ready to play yet. I think he's been brought in as a number 3. He's got 3 appearances for Rochdale in the Papa John's Trophy under his belt. You just give Hladky another game. I think he is the cup goalkeeper, so you want to play him in the cups. I guess the only problem is defensively what bodies we've got to play the back, because you probably, I don't know how the rules work with regards to the 2 club rule, but if Elkin Baggett plays and then subsequently goes out on loan, you sort of, are you potentially tying him to that team for the season? I don't know if the League Cup counts or it's just a league, but so you probably don't want to.
Oh, the League Cup counts.
Yeah, you probably don't want to tie him in to that while it's still potentially going out on loan. So yeah, it's just missing there. But yeah, you want to give all the starters a rest and have them coming back straight at it for Saturday, don't you?
What does your team look like? Do you think on? It's not Tuesday. It's Wednesday night. Did I say
Wednesday? Isn't it?
So I got that wrong. My bad. Sorry.
I'd probably
perhaps
go.
you see both centre backs missing out, and perhaps have a mate if it does stack up, as you said, with Baggett, having Baggett and maybe Don Ball there.
Well, Edmondson as well, isn't there?
You think Greg Lee? There will no doubt be a smattering of 1 or 2 that will still play. You'd think Ladapo, possibly Jackson Harness likely to get a start. I mean, you just look at the bench today. I mean, whatever team we put out, it's not like, we've said this before last season, haven't we? In the FA Cup games and the League Cup games last season, it's not like the bad old days when you're really putting out a really scratch side. It's still going to be a decent competitive.
Dave, what about Jack Taylor and Omari Hutchinson?
You'd have thought so. Yeah, absolutely.
Surely
give him some legs. Interesting to see, as Joe said, Edwards travelled, but not in the squad. Whether he gets whether certainly he gets a start, or at least certainly on the bench. I see. Quite a few changes. I think quite rightly too.
Joe, Rich and Seb will deal with this in proper detail, but my threat level for Stoke has probably trebled since we got to a point about 3 weeks into July where Alex Neil had signed Dan Johnson, who he had at Preston, and Ben Pearson, who he had at Preston, he had on loan. And it's all gone a bit wild after that. And look, a lot of people have got Rotherham finishing low down. I get it, but Rotherham survived last year, of course, didn't they? Has your threat level gone up for this Stoke game, or are you in Dave's camp of 3 points in the bag now?
No. Go on.
Yeah. I think you can relax.
I don't mean to misrepresent Dave.
Sorry.
Go on.
I think the problem you have, and it's something that Stoke have obviously got over as well, is when you haven't won a game yet this season. I know it's in game 1, game 2. The pressure soon builds up to try and get that first win on the board, and you don't want to be looking at the league table and seeing yourself in the relegation zone, even when you're 2-3 games into the season. So you want to get a win to get yourself up and going. So it makes the game a very different game now. It makes it probably a more open game than what could have been expected had they lost their first game of the season. They come here just trying to think, well, we want to get a point, we want to get up and running on that side of it there. But Alex Neil's a good manager, and he's done a good job most places he's been. He's done. Stoke is probably the job where he's probably done least well last season, but they've obviously been impressed enough by him to give him the opportunity to shape the squad in his own mould. So he's now got the opportunity, but we just have to hope we catch him a little bit cold with all the transfers. I know they won yesterday, but it's different being at home to Rotherham than it is being away to Ipswich, isn't it?
And Ben, with Stoke, I mean, we've known them in previous over the years to be quite strong, quite physical side. Much the same you see this season.
Yeah, you're alluding to the Michael O'Neill Stoke teams, which were just huge and slow, weren't they? Frankly, they seem to have remedied that a little bit. Seem to have signed a lot of wingers and a lot of people kind of Mediterranean sort of descent and from exotic clubs. So as Joe sort of mentions, with Alex Neil teams, it's all detail and
functional
stuff that if you sat and watched with a pro, they would say, "Oh, look at that shape, look at that trigger," and what that we maybe as fans don't particularly notice. But Clang, when I talk to Matt Jarvis about Alex Neil, it's proper. He's very much told exactly where he's to be every part of the game, and he was a winger. as well. So, but you're looking forward to getting back to Portman Road, Dave.
Gosh, that's good. It's good. Just interested to see what the whole new revamped pitch looks like and everything else. Apparently, dimensions have changed, and it's it's going to be brilliant, isn't it? Just to get back. Well, obviously, I'll see that on Wednesday evening. But yeah, it's going to be great to get back, and it's going to be again pretty much near to a sellout. You would have thought again. So yeah, just absolutely superb. What 28,000 perhaps 27, 28,000 there. Yeah, it's going to be great. Especially after the result today. I mean, everyone's just going to be up, aren't they?
Well, let's just finish up now. Joe, I very much went into this. Take a point. If you give me a Hurst goal and a point, I'm happy. Just play well, blah, blah, blah. What a start, Joe.
Absolutely. 3 points and one of our sort of toughest on paper games of the season. Hurst getting the goal, Hladky making the big save at the end. Probably if you wrote a wish list down of the things you wanted to see today, you've probably ticked a lot of things off that, and ultimately any 3 points.
I didn't have 13-minute stoppage time on my wish list,
especially not a 2-1 with 5 minutes to go. Definitely didn't have that, but no, it's just a great win, isn't it? And you can't worry too much. Oh yeah, our game management was bad at the end. That stuff will all be worked on, but sometimes you just got to savor the 3 points.
You think Chaplin's shot goes in, Ben, and it's Chaplin's lob goes in, and it's goal of the season, done and dusted, day one, game day one.
You know me. I like a team move, but that would have been one hell of a goal.
As Joe, just to echo Joe's sentiments, yeah, absolutely couldn't have gone any better, really.
Guys, brilliant. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for the comments and the super chats. Dave, you're about to say something.
Yeah, can I just give a shout out? A real long-term listener of the pod, and I was really taken aback and shocked last week. A guy called Mark Wall, old friend of mine, pretty much listened to the pod from day one. At the end of last year, diagnosed with motor neurone disease. Lives in Ipswich. So, yeah, just to say, keep listening, Mark, and hope today was, gave you a bit of a boost. Anyway, mate.
Yeah, well said, Dave. Really, really well said. Guys, thank you for joining us for episode 700 of the Blue Monday podcast. We are off to a winning start. God damn it. We will see you very, very soon.